For the Young at Heart is sponsored by Duville Life and Wellness Community, a commitment to care, a legacy of compassion. This is Duville.
Hello, welcome to For the Young at Heart. I'm Lucille Jerome. My guest today is Kathy Kelly. She's the Executive Director for Alternative House, providing services to domestic violence issues. We're going to be talking a lot about that today. Thank you, Kathy, for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
I know how busy you are. Let's talk a little bit first. What is domestic violence? Let's start with the basic.
Well, there are variations of domestic violence, and I think a lot of people, when they hear the term domestic violence, think about the physical abuse, bruising, choking, etc.
Right.
But that does happen, but oftentimes there are other forms of abuse. There is emotional abuse. There is financial abuse.
Emotional abuse might be like what?
Well,
What might-
emotional abuse is really where you're in a relationship and the perpetrator of the abuse is always making put down statements, doing things to make you feel really badly about yourself, kind of tearing down your self-esteem so that you begin to lose self-confidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned financial too.
Financial abuse, an abuser can be extremely controlling. They may give the victim an allowance, and then they check on where did you spend the money, how did you spend the money, please give me the change. It could be that you're working and the abuser will control the paycheck. The abuser might also decide to say, look, we're going to use your paycheck to pay all the bills. And meanwhile, he or she, the abuser, may be keeping their own money. So
my
it can take
gosh.
many different
Okay.
forms. I think another form of abuse, when abuse is occurring, is that an abuser tries to isolate the victim over a period of time. It might start out slowly, saying, oh, geez, I really want to spend some time with you. How about if we don't visit your family this weekend? How about if you don't go out with your girlfriends this weekend or other friends?
On one side, it sounds like you're being special to him.
Absolutely.
So that's the hook.
And definitely, that's the hook. And then over a period of time, you look back and your family's reaching out to you, your friends might be reaching out to you, but slowly they stop reaching out because you're spending less time with them. And so
Okay.
that isolation begins. If you couple it with other abusive behaviors, tearing down your self-esteem and self-confidence, pretty soon you might even begin to believe everything that the abuser is saying.
Okay, so it's a slow process then.
Oftentimes it can be, yeah.
So do you sometimes have an inkling that something's not right here?
If you're the victim,
If you're the victim, like how early on do you get a sense? There can't be a recipe for that though, huh?
there's probably no recipe for it. It depends on perhaps the environment you grew up in, your household environment, your life experiences up to that point. Some victims are very strong initially. Something happens that they identify as abusive early on in a relationship, and they say, that's it, and they walk away.
Okay.
Oftentimes, if it is over a period of time, it's harder and harder for a victim to walk away because they hear statements like, nobody will believe you, nobody will think that I did this, you know, people see me as an upright citizen.
Okay.
You know, I will deny anything you say. If there's a pet involved, they might threaten to abuse the pet. Or if you come from another country, they may decide that I will send you back, or I'll report you to immigration officials if you haven't reached your legal status yet.
Okay. So they just keep those threats coming. And they wear you down.
Right,
They
right.
wear you down.
Yeah, yeah. And it's usually multiple behaviors over a period of time. And pretty soon you're so isolated that you are believing the abuser, thinking nobody will believe me. That person might say, well, how come your family doesn't call anymore, right? They don't care about you. So it depends how long that happens.
Okay.
And then obviously there's the physical abuse. Sometimes abusers are very smart about causing physical damage in places where someone wouldn't see it. They don't necessarily always hit you in the face. It might be in the lower back. It might be in the upper back, which is usually covered by clothing, the back of your legs, in places like that.
Okay. They might be saying things like how much he loves you because he wants to spend so much time with you.
Absolutely.
And no one else will love you like I do.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
absolutely.
okay.
That happens a lot. And I think that is the difficulty when it happens over a long period of time. And the victim might want to leave at some point in time, but they might start thinking, well, how am I going to take care of myself? Maybe nobody will believe me if I reach out. How come nobody hasn't reached out to me so far to say, well, where are you? Because oftentimes it's a busy world. If you stop seeing your family, you stop seeing your friends, they may say, oh, too busy.
Exactly, exactly. Because it is busy, it is stressful anyway, so they might write it off in a way.
Right.
Oh my gosh, okay. So here we are. We have a victim, we have a perpetrator. There are services available.
Right.
You're one of the people, your agency is one of the agencies that will help them. How can we access help?
There are lots of different ways. One of the things that I like to tell everyone in the community is that you do not have to become an expert on domestic violence.
Okay.
But the saying that we hear a lot over the last couple of years, if you see something, say something.
Yes.
Or if you have the ability to know that Alternative House has a crisis hotline number. And I know that they will be showing the crisis hotline number on the screen. Just taking that number down and having it somewhere, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, a neighbor, that if in fact you can find a period of time to say, look, I don't want to get into your business, but I'm not sure if you need people to talk to. Here's a number. It's got someone on the other end 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Here is the crisis hotline number. And it will be answered by a person. One of the things is we do need the victim to call. Somebody else can call and say, I think this is going on. We'll talk to them, we'll listen to them, but we'll give them some guidance in terms of having the victim call us. I think the other thing, Alternative House has the 24-hour crisis hotline. We also have an emergency shelter. If you really feel as though you need to call us and are ready to leave, we will do safety planning with you on the phone. We will wait until you're ready and you identify a safe time to leave the situation. You may decide to come into our shelter or maybe another shelter. Or maybe you just need safety planning. Maybe you need to go to Lowell District Court and take out a stay away order or a restraining order. We have the experts on staff to meet you in court, to work with you, to help you through this phase. We also have what is referred to as safe housing. And so we have some safe housing places of all the shelters are filled when you call. we can also work with you to go into safe housing. But the decision lies with the victim. They know their situation better than
Okay.
anyone else. So we're not going to tell you, oh, you
Okay.
need to leave now. We're going to say, how can we help you?
Okay. Suppose the woman is afraid, and I'm saying woman, it could be a man maybe too,
Right.
but suppose the woman is afraid that he's going to come after her and find her in a shelter.
Well,
Is that where the safe house comes in or not?
no,
No.
but the shelter, we will work with her until she or he is ready to leave
Okay.
and feel safe about
Okay.
that. Because quite honestly, think about it a little bit. If you decide to leave, if you decide to take out a restraining order, if you decide to move away and live with a friend, you have changed the balance of power in the relationship. And oftentimes those are very dangerous times for someone. So we really work very, very closely to create a safety plan, helping them gather the documents they might need to take with them, and a safe time to
Okay.
leave.
All right.
And when they're ready, and we'll be there for them to help
when
them.
they're ready.
Right, right.
Okay.
We're trying to empower the
Yes.
victim and not control the victim.
Okay. Empower the victim. I love that word, empower. Tell us a little bit about maybe some success stories.
Well,
if you don't mind.
we've had a lot of stories, and oftentimes when people come to us, we're a short-term emergency shelter. At some point, they move on. They move into permanent housing, they find a job, they find an apartment. We work with them to get those supports. But from time to time, the way we're organized, we have an emergency shelter, we have a 2-year transitional housing program that those who want to, and when there are openings from our shelter, can go into the 2-year transitional housing program. And we have some units of permanent affordable housing.
Okay.
We have heard from once they come to us, we like to refer to them as survivors. So
Yes,
past survivors,
yes.
we have received phone calls or letters saying, just want you to know that you created a safe place for me. You helped me get to where I am now. We're doing better. I'm doing better. We have bumped into survivors on some of the college campuses or in the community. We don't necessarily approach them. We let them approach us if
Right.
they feel strong enough and safe enough to
Right.
do that.
Right.
And we oftentimes hear very good stories. A year ago, at the holiday time, we received a large donation from a survivor with a little note to me. Kathy, I just want you to know I'm doing really well. I'm in a position where I can give back now, and I wanted to donate some toys for the children
Right.
during the
Yeah.
holidays.
So you restored their own self-respect, their own hope
Well,
for
we gave
future.
them, we gave them maybe the support they
The
needed
support.
so they could restore
Yes.
it. They can dig deep down
Deep
inside
down.
and
Right.
find it. And sometimes it's very hard to do that. But we also offer other ways. We usually have activities, expressive arts therapy, art, music, writing that survivors can participate in. Oftentimes, with the children who come in, we do a lot of expressive arts therapy, because if you think about it, young children who witness domestic violence, and if they're very young, they may not be at the age to form the words to identify what went on, but oftentimes they can draw pictures. And with a trained, licensed
Right.
expressive arts therapist, they can ask questions about the
Yeah,
picture. They
right.
can help that child perhaps begin to talk a little bit about the trauma they experienced, and then we do the work of trying to get them to feel safe with us.
Yes,
We do a lot of safety planning with the children who are in our program too,
Okay.
in case they ever got into this situation again. What
Right.
would you do to stay
Right.
safe?
Right. How can they protect themselves from being in a similar situation in the
Right.
future?
Right. We feel strongly too, the work we do with the young children, we feel the earlier we can intervene and let them know this was not your fault. If you ever got into a situation again, how do you stay safe? We do activities to build up their self-confidence
Right.
and their self-esteem, because oftentimes when they're very young, they're very protective if it's their mom, and trying to protect them from the abuser. If they witness abuse, they could feel guilty.
right.
I didn't do enough to take care of my mother.
Right. It's multidimensional. The
It
thing
is.
It's
It is.
multidimensional.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I'm thinking offhand, if a woman began to think they were being, maybe the perpetrator is a little bit sly initially, and maybe he's keeping track of the mileage on a car, or how long you've been gone to the market. I'm just trying to
Absolutely.
extrapolate here. And if you begin to suspect something, that's a clue. That would be a clue.
That is definitely a warning sign to say, what's going on here? You
Right.
know, that the victim or the person in that relationship
Right.
should be saying, well, wait a minute, you know, why are you questioning? You know, that
Right.
seems like controlling
Right.
behavior.
Right.
Why do I need to turn over the exact change, you know? Or maybe it took me 15 minutes longer to get home. Why are you questioning that?
Right.
And it's a sign of a very, very controlling behavior, the beginnings.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Does any of that behavior show up in the dating process, or is this something that builds over time?
Well, it can show up. We do a lot of work with teen dating violence, working with young people.
Okay.
We've gone into many of the schools or take referrals from social workers in the schools. We have found that oftentimes, again, there's that profession of love. I care about you.
Yes.
In this day and age of text messaging, and I realize some people text message all the time, but if you're in a relationship and you get text messages repeatedly, where
Okay.
are you? I'm waiting for you. Come out
Oh, my
here, you know.
goodness.
That is an indication of controlling behavior.
Okay.
We have sometimes found that in a relationship, a dating relationship, say the victim is still in high school, but it's an older person that they're dating not in high school, that oftentimes they're there waiting for them to pick them up when they get out of school. If they're a minute late coming out of school, where are you? I'm here. And so these are the behaviors to look at, but some of those behaviors can transfer into adult dating relationships too.
Right.
And
Right.
it should be a warning sign.
Okay.
If it happens once in a while and they're just, well, I was worried about you because you were 15 minutes late, I was hoping you weren't in a car accident, right? Maybe they heard sirens, they question you once. That's okay. They care about you.
Yes.
It's the sign is that repeated and becomes more frequent, repetitive, controlling behavior of somebody else.
So there's a pattern that builds over time.
Absolutely.
In frequency, how often it happens,
Right.
and the intensity also.
And the intensity,
Okay.
the isolation.
The
Are you
isolation.
becoming more isolated? Are you cut off from everybody? It should be a sign. And what I would say is if you need someone to talk to and there's a
Right,
safe time
right.
when that abuser is out of the house, they're at work, or they've gone to the store, and there's some way you can reach out to us. But be careful. Sometimes abusers will also, they want to look at your phone.
Let's talk about that, because everyone's got the cell phone now, and
Absolutely.
everybody thinks it's private. The same thing with Facebook.
Right.
And
right.
it's really not.
Right.
So talk a little bit about that
Well,
as
you
a
ha-
protection device, what we need to know.
Yeah, you really have to be careful. And it's really the same thing as on the telephone, although it happens much faster in this day and age of cell phones and text messaging. And sometimes the person you're talking to and how they identify themselves is really not that person when you find out about it. So if you're a young person, you get worried about something, talk to your parents. It's okay. Reach out to your parents. Parents should also try to monitor and talk to their young people about cell phone safety, the safety precautions you need to take out in the world without scaring someone. I
Right,
just care
right.
about you. I want to make sure
Right.
you're okay.
Right, right.
But there are ways, I think deep down inside, oftentimes you will know. The person, after a period of time, can realize, wait a minute, something's not right here, and I have to figure out a way to reach out, and reach out during a safe period of my time.
That kind of comes up against this type of human nature where people don't want to interfere. They don't want to do that.
Right.
So there's this little push me, pull me kind of a thing happening. But at some point, something clicks.
Right.
Something is going to click.
Right.
Okay? Now, you know, we're working with a lot of senior citizens and their families. And our older population, sometimes we think our older population are the only ones that don't like to interfere. But that's really not true. That's like a general across the board, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think we have grown up in a society, generations of maintaining privacy, not getting into someone else's business.
Yes, yes.
Maybe I didn't hear what I think I heard.
Right.
And I think it gets back to if you hear something and it raises some gut reaction or concerns, if you hear it over a period of time, you're living in an apartment building and you hear things, it's okay. Reach out, maybe to even our crisis hotline
Sure.
number and say, this is what's going on, what do you think I should do?
Thank you.
And
That's
we
a
help
wonderful.
to direct you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
So when in doubt, they can call.
Right. And oftentimes we'll say, you know, well, that victim needs to call us, but here are some things you may be able to do. What
Okay.
kind of a relationship do you have
Right.
with this person?
Right.
Are they a neighbor? Are they a family member? And that we will help to provide some guidelines.
Okay. All right. That by itself, that piece is very hopeful and helpful for anyone. For anyone to not feel it's not just the victim who might feel isolated, but the one who's trying to help, who would like to help, not knowing how to do it, where to go.
Right.
Are they hearing correctly? Are they seeing correctly?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Because you want to think everything is really okay.
Right.
So we do misinterpret. We do
Right.
misinterpret sometimes. So your services are provided in how wide an area do you have?
Well, we have an emergency shelter. We have a 2-year transitional housing program, 6 units of permanent affordable housing. We do a lot of community outreach and education, and we really started doing that probably in the mid-1990s. I think a lot of people who are helping victims of domestic abuse realized, you know, we need to get the community involved. We need the community's help. We can only try to either end the violence or at least get the word out of safety planning and
Right.
safe places to go by engaging the community. And so we've done that a lot over the years. We're out in the courts with legal advocates. We go into
Okay.
the schools. Again, somebody in the community hears something, they're not quite sure what to do, call us. We would offer some guidance. We'll listen to you and try to help you out. And it's really a community effort. And
Right.
Alternative House could not keep the numbers of individuals we've kept safe and to move on to a violence-free life without the support of the
Right.
community.
Right,
We really need you.
Okay. Do you have volunteers at your agency? Do you have senior volunteers at your agency?
We have had senior
You have had them?
volunteers
Okay.
at our agency. Sometimes the seniors want to do projects for us. And
Okay.
sometimes they may do a project like collecting toiletries and bringing them to us. We've had senior centers or council on aging centers, depending on how they're referred to, do projects for us. They may knit Afghans. They may then donate them to us, or
Okay.
baby clothes. The Dracut Library has a box where whether you're a senior or a younger person, you can donate cell phones and iPads to us.
Okay.
We send them somewhere where they're refurbished and go back out to victims. So yeah, this place for, we have to be careful with volunteers. If you're
Okay.
doing a one-time project, we still have you fill out a form.
Oh,
we
sure.
talk to you.
Sure.
If you want to come in long-term, oftentimes that's a little bit more of paperwork, a query check,
sure,
etc.
sure.
We've had seniors come in and read to our young children in our after-school program.
Okay.
So yeah, we love having volunteers, and we have college interns all the time from Middlesex Community College
Okay.
and UMass Lowell, working on site, Boston University School of Social Work, and Salem, and Salem State. Yeah,
Oh,
we have an
good,
intern right now from
good.
Boston University
Oh, good.
School of
That's my
Social
alma
Work.
mater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
that's my alma
she's
mater.
been with us close to a year now.
Yeah. Okay.
She's great.
Good. Yeah. BU's great. No, well, social justice is a big thing for them.
It is.
Social
It is.
justice. But it is for you too. And how did you get involved in this, by the way?
You know, I think it happened over time when I started working in the nonprofit field. My big interest was working with young people, and I worked in agencies with a lot of young people, creating girls' diversion programs,
Okay.
working for the Department of Youth Services, ran a girls' secure treatment program out in Littleton. But over time, I interacted.
gradual.
Yeah, it was gradual over time because I was interacting with the families,
yeah.
and I saw a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect. A lot of young girls at the time would run away from home too, and would end up being picked up by the Department of Youth Services, almost re-victimized by coming into the department, where really the abuser
Right.
was the one that we
Right.
should have been locking
Right.
up.
Right.
And then I ended up working in Nashua, New Hampshire as the executive director of the YWCA. And even though we didn't have a domestic violence service program
Right.
on site, we were across the street
It led
from
you.
the sexual assault
Right.
and domestic violence services.
Kathy, believe it or not, we're winding down.
Oh, already?
Yeah, already,
Okay.
already. It
All
does
right.
go by fast. We have
Okay.
less than a minute right now.
Okay.
Did we leave anything out?
Well, we probably left a lot out, but I think the most,
But the most
important,
important.
thing is reach out, write down our
Yes,
hotline number. If you have questions,
Yes.
give the hotline number if you know of a victim and they have
There you
said
go.
they want to know where to call,
Yeah.
and have them call us 24/7, 365 days
There
a
you
year.
go.
We're there.
There you go.
And it won't be voicemail.
Oh my, or press this button.
Right, or
Over
press this
10
button.
buttons,
Right, I
okay.
promise you.
I want to thank you so much for coming, Kathy. This has been very important information for our senior population, but the population in general too. I guess I don't want to single my population out as much right now, but it's been very important. Thank you so much.
Well, thank
you.
you. Drake, it's been wonderful to us
Yeah,
over the
good.
years.
Yeah, that's it. I hope you make it to your meeting.
I will. Do
It's
we just sit
1:24.
here for a little while?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's-
For the Young at Heart is sponsored by Duville Life and Wellness Community, a commitment to care, a legacy of compassion. This is Duville.